Greetings all, D&Disability here. I know I've been going through a lot of theoretical blah blah over disability and running games. So let's get hands-on and talk about what I do as a DM to help my players. Here are 10 things I do to help my players have a better game experience. If you're new here, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you would like to see more. Number 1. Whenever a new player is introduced to the group, I get character descriptions, names, and pronouns of all the group members. This doesn't have to be anything big, I just have everyone give a single sentence about their character to kind of introduce them, and of course to reintroduce them and their kind of core ethos for the rest of the party. Number 2, I typically ask if there are any triggers for the new person. I give them the opportunity to disclose any disabilities they may have, and let us know what, if anything, we could do. When a non-disabled player joins my group, I don't always ask this question, but I really should get in the habit of it. Also, this serves as a time for other players to disclose their disabilities or their triggers if they haven't already been noted elsewhere. Because, number 3, I keep a list of rules available for all players to view that are the triggers or problems for players at the table. This could be something as simple as no shouting at the table, or try not to talk over each other because the hard of hearing, i.e. the deaf, can't understand anything when you do. It becomes kind of a garbled mess. Number 4, to help with that, I write down all player character names at the beginning of the session in a random order, usually in the order of whomever shows up first to last. This serves as kind of a talking order for the day's session. Usually, the first 3 people on the list are the ones I pick on the most as a DM. By cycling back, by talking order, I mean a list that I go down when I'm getting actions either in or out of combat. I don't literally force people to speak in that order. I'm not as rigid as, say, Runehammer is. But I do prompt players with questions if they aren't speaking up. If we've cycled through questions, let's say twice, and I haven't heard from someone, the third time I typically will prompt them. And speaking of questions, this kind of leads me into my 5th point. Point number 5. I ask questions of my players. I'll give an example. Abby Fairfax is searching for secret doors. Laura is checking the hallway for traps. I might ask Siri what she's doing. I might give some options as well. Something like, the door hasn't been checked for a trap yet, or there's a skeleton no one investigated yet, and so on. What this does is it helps remind players that are easily lost or distracted with large room descriptions or overwhelmed by details, and lets them focus on key details that they might have missed. However, I do not just do this for all important details. I point out plenty of useless ones to where whenever a player hears me speak up and dictate to them what is in the room or whatever, they don't immediately assume it's all of value. Point number 6. Whenever combat starts or the party is stalling due to indecision, I check my list. I get declared actions before having them all roll initiative, and we resolve actions in initiative order. I also occasionally threaten them with a random encounter if they don't keep the game moving. My go-to random encounter threat, by the way, is 2d8 trolls. This helps maintain a decent game speed that keeps players engaged. Number 7. I limit combat in real-world terms to 60 seconds. If they need to look something up, I skip them and move on to the next person on my list. They each get 60 seconds. After we roll for initiative, players start rolling their dice, and I begin the narrating process. We then kind of put it all together, and it helps keep combat fast and helps keep players engaged. Engagement is really core of my DM style. So then, what do I do when I hit a snag? Well, that's point number 8. If someone doesn't understand or they need a refresh on what's going on, I go through everyone else's turn first to get their declared actions. Then I help that player last. This lets players decide, maybe look up that spell, maybe start rolling their dice. I then describe the room, the monsters, give that player their options, or walk them through potential solutions that probably would be a best fit for their character. And the key here that I find is to make it clear that I'm giving the player options, not that I'm giving them answers or the correct answer. The more choice I typically give my players and the more clarity I give my players, the fewer hiccups we tend to have, and the better the overall game experience is. When in doubt, give more information than you think you need. Number 9, and stop me if you've heard me talk about this before, at the end of every session, I hang out and let players talk over the game with me. They can ask questions, give feedback, or simply decompress for 10 minutes before moving on with their day. Now, to say I do this every session is generous to the point of lunacy. There are sessions where I just have to dip because my eye hurts or I have to run and do something, but typically I try, and even if it's not a dedicated Q&A or post-session discussion, I'm typically available for those things, and I make it known that I'm available for this. Number 10, I try and thank my players every so often, let them know what they are doing well, what I'd like to actually see improvement in the future, but I do this carefully. I don't say something like, Reggie, you don't participate enough these past 3 weeks. Get back to playing the game and stay out of your phone. Instead, I typically say something like, hey Reggie, I might be mistaken here, but you've been quieter than usual. Is there anything going on? And that way, it gives the player the option to speak up if they want to, and they don't feel attacked. And I find this kind of post-session effective communication that makes up points 9 and 10 really ensures a better long-term game experience. For those of you counting at home, we've reached the end of our list. Good job. But for those who are at the end of the video, I have a bonus one for you. So here's number 11. I don't punish my players for missing the game. The XP still gets divided up as if all 9 players of mine were here. One thing that doesn't get divided up, though, is treasure. So, say if 5 players participate, they divide the treasure amongst themselves. But the monster XP gets divided amongst everyone. Because the players that miss, we must realize they've already probably had a bad week, and they don't need their hobby to punish them for it. Alright, y'all, these are the 10 things I try to do every game to help me succeed and help my players succeed. I could probably do another video on this topic if you'd like to hear more. But until then, remember, come back next week. I tend to upload every Wednesday, and I think you'll like next week's topic as well.